Until then, unless you can do something useful, which I highly doubt, stay out of the way.
He turns to leave the room, but not before giving me another once-over, sizing me up. I stand there dumbly, watching the captain leave the bridge, his heavy-set footsteps disappearing underneath the hiss of the closing door.
Sorry about him. It isn't personal, if it helps.
I glare towards the door, his words still rubbing me in all the wrong places. You're not the one who should be sorry. Ayame laughs, her tone low and disbelieving.
You sound just like him.
My glare shifts from the door to her, thoroughly unimpressed. Being compared to him is certainly not something I appreciate.
I'm sorry, but trust me, I know. Calderon is complicated, amongst other things.
My eyebrows crinkle in confusion, betraying my calm exterior. There's nothing complicated about being civil, or learning some manners in that case.
Come on, I saw you talking to Damon before Calderon came around. He's not exactly Lord of Niceville either.
Yeah, but at least he was honest. My eyes fix on her, the truth behind them blunt and unbroken. And he didn't call me useless. She sighs, tugging on a thin braid hanging by her shoulder out of habit.
Well, we're all a little cuckoo around here. Try not to let it get to you. Like I said, it's nothing personal. Besides, I can teach you a thing or two. Like how to tell them both to take a hike. In a more colorful language, of course.
She laughs, and my lips curve at the sound. There's something calming about her, something that puts me at ease, and it's a relief to know this ship is not entirely filled with jerks. I can't help but wonder exactly at the nature of her relationship with the captain. They seemed pretty close, after all. The last thing I want is to pry, so perhaps an indirect approach would be best. Or maybe I shouldn't ask her at all. Why would she disclose her personal life to a stranger?
I can hear the links in that brain of yours struggling from here. If you want to ask me something, go ahead. I won't bite. Unless you want me to.
She adds the last part with a wink, catching me off guard with her boldness. It's not a big deal, really. I was just wondering if... you and the captain look... close. Are you two... Allowing my voice to draw out, it's almost funny to watch how her expression shifts from that careless confidence into one of utter disbelief.
Wow, you want to know if we're a thing?
With a laugh bordering hysterical, she runs a hand through her hair, drawing my attention to her face. I glance over the gear attached to the side of her head. It looks advanced, amazingly so. But what really catches my eye are the thin gills on the sides of her neck, moving ever so slightly with each breath she takes. A catalfin. The feeling of familiarity warms something in me. It's a relief to know I'm not alone out here.
We're definitely not a couple. Never. Ew. Gross.
She makes a gagging sound before she turns back on me with a crooked grin, completely unfazed.
He's more like a lame older brother. We've looked out for each other for as long as I can remember.
That makes more sense, actually, and I feel a little foolish at having thought otherwise at all.
Hang on. You asked me if I'm single before getting my name? And they say I'm the bold one.
The grin on her face is so wide, it makes her eyes almost as thin as her gills. I open my mouth to protest, only to realize there's no argument. I did ask her relationship status before her name. This is awkward.
I'm Ayame, and the one who keeps this steel tub on course is yours truly. But please, call me Aya. Ayame just sounds so Calderon, don't you think?
She talks so fast, there's barely enough time for me to process the information. But I find that I like it that way. Words fail me as a flaming flush makes its way up my neck and face, and I blink repeatedly, desperately trying to get some control over my body back. In an attempt to stutter out an apology, I open my mouth, but no sound comes out besides a breath I didn't even realize I was holding. With an extremely smug grin, Aya takes a step forward and pushes my chin up with a finger, closing my gaping mouth.
Don't let it hang open. You don't want the cat to get your tongue now, do you?
My skin burns where it comes in contact with hers, and I can't explain the effect she has on me. There's just something about Aya. Something I'm not likely to forget in a hurry. A small smile slides onto my lips, and I shrug. Maybe I'm a cat person. Aya crooks an eyebrow at me, her smile growing more and more mischievous by the second.
I'll bet you didn't know. I'm a total wildcat at night.
I didn't think it was possible, but my face burns even hotter at that. I made it too easy, didn't I? Letting go of my chin with a slight squeeze of her fingers, she lets out a hearty laugh.
To tease you? Yes. To make it boring? Hell no.
With a groan, I run my hands over my face, trying to push away the flush by force.
I'm so going to do it again.
A ragged breath tears from my lungs, and I'm torn between being desperate to experience this blush fest again and actually looking forward to the next time. Thinking about that, however, brings back the memory of the captain and his ultimatum. The smile on my face fades as I remember, and I can't quite explain why. I hardly know these people, but somehow, the thought of being alone in the state I am is somehow terrifying.
Hey, what killed your mood? Did you remember something crappy about your past?
I wish. Shaking my head, I raise my eyes to meet hers, taking in her subtle concern. No, I'm just not sure how much longer I'll be around.
Why's that? You got someplace to go?
Well, not particularly, but the captain said you're dropping me off in Terranium when we arrive. Aya's eyebrows almost disappear beneath her hair as she stares at me, a mixture of shock and anger clouding her features.
What the? He said he's dropping you off in Terranium? Terranium?
Yeah, it is your next stop, isn't it? It's my turn to look confused. I'm pretty sure that's what he said. I couldn't have mistaken the name like that.
It is, but do you know anyone in Terranium? Got any place to go, any plans?
I keep shaking my head at her questions, one after the other. My past is still a blur. These people are the only ones I remember knowing. And somehow, I think I've gotten a little attached. With an exasperated huff, Aya throws her hands in the air and starts pacing in front of me.
Ugh! Is he out of his freaking mind? No, he must have completely lost it now.
Biting my lip, I hold her by the arm to stop her from burning a hole in the floor with the intensity of her pacing. It's okay. I can take care of myself. I'll just ask around, get a job, or something to keep me going while I try to get my life in order. It's fine. Really. The last thing I want is to cause trouble for one of the few people who's been so kind to me. They already saved my life. It's not right to ask more from them. Aya stops, pulling her bottom lip between her teeth before she turns to me.
It's not fine. A job in Terranium? Fending for yourself in that place when you don't even know your last name?
Shaking her head, she puts a hand on my shoulder, looking me dead in the eye, and I start to understand a little of how she manages to keep a pair like Damon and Calderon in check.
Look, don't worry about that. I'm not gonna let that idiot leave you stranded in...
The hissing sound of the pressure door opening next to us interrupts Aya.
Nico, didn't I tell you to get some rest?
Startled by the stern voice, I turn to find a very annoyed doctor, her hands on her hips and her foot tapping expectantly.
What's all this fuss about, anyway?
Sorry, we were talking and then I found out some dummy is thinking of doing something even dumber. I lost my cool, Ree.
Riona's expression melts when she notices my confusion, her eyes settling on Aya with an almost maternal fondness.
Then you go and deal with it, Aya, but please, don't drag Nico along with you. They need to rest. Now.
A sheepish smile on her face, Aya squeezes my shoulder once more before walking to the door.
Aye, on it.
And then she adds, quiet enough for only me to hear.
You'd better do what the doc says. You don't want to see her when she's mad.
Her footsteps fade as she skips down the hall, and Riona offers me an apologetic smile.
Don't worry about her.
I'm not even sure what she's talking about. True, I think she was upset about me being in Terranium, but I can't really tell why.
I don't think any of us do most of the time. But enough chit-chat. You need to rest. Come on.
Her smile is soft, but the firmness of her voice makes it clear that I don't have a choice in the matter. So, answering with a smile of my own, I follow her away from the bridge. My body is still sore enough to be a bother, my legs having grown stiff from trapezing around the ship the past few hours. I didn't notice it so much as I was talking with everyone, but resting doesn't sound half bad. After hours of lying in bed, tossing and turning, I finally admit that I'm not going to be able to get any sleep and settle instead for pacing the small room. My mind is stuck in an endless loop, sprinting 1,000 miles an hour, and the harder I try to think about my past, the harder my head pounds against my skull. Nothing feels right. I'd hate to think what Riona would do if she saw me burning myself out like this, but I can't help it. Especially now that I need to come up with a plan for when we get to Terranium. I don't remember much of the Junker planet, like everything else, but I know it's not a good place to be alone. Gambling dens, arenas, bars, strip clubs. What exactly am I supposed to do in a place like that? It was easy to joke about starting a new life earlier, but now it's sounding a lot more daunting. Heaving a sigh, I eventually give up pacing and drop down on the bed, crossing my arms behind my head and staring up at the metal ceiling, counting the bolts and rivets above me. My head shoots up at the sound of a knock at the door, and I push myself off the bed and walk over to open it. Oh! It's you! Calderon cocks an eyebrow from where he stands in the corridor, and I get the impression he suddenly wishes he was anywhere but here.
I suppose I deserve that.
I raise my eyebrows in agreement, but say nothing, all the annoyance from our earlier conversation flooding through me once more. Calderon rubs the back of his neck anxiously, and it's the first time I've seen him do something that doesn't exude obnoxious male energy.
I'm sorry about earlier. Do you mind if I come in for a minute?
I think for a moment before I stand back, giving him space to enter the room and letting the door slide shut behind him. He's so tall, so big, that the room seems comically small in comparison.
I'd forgotten we even had this room.
Calderon glances around the room skeptically before his eyes land on me again.
I told June to shove you in the nearest storage closet when he brought you aboard. Lucky for you, he never listens to me.
I stare at him disapprovingly, choosing to ignore that statement and move on to the next. So, which one of them put you up to this? I don't bother to hide the skepticism in my voice. He was an absolute jerk on the bridge earlier, and I think he's beginning to realize it.
Are you assuming I didn't come here of my own free will?
I give him a pointed stare, and his jaw flexes stubbornly before he breaks.
Fine. It was a Yame, if you must know.
I knew it!
Alright, smarty pants. You want a medal?
I laugh. It's amazing how, as obnoxious as Calderon is, he manages to make me forget all about the situation I'm in. If only for a few moments. I don't miss the tilt of his lips, the loosening of his shoulders, and when he turns to me again, I swear his eyes are softer.
But I did want to see. How are you feeling?
His question catches me off guard, and the floodgates of confusion open up on me once again. It's been mere hours since I woke up here on the Andromeda Six, but after everything that's already happened, it feels like a lifetime. Ironic when you consider my memory of that life only began this morning. I dropped down onto the edge of the small bed, arms folded over my chest. Despite everything, I can't help but to keep my guard up around Calderon. I know I've far surpassed my use of the sentence, but really, I don't know. I know how I should feel: lost, alone, terrified. But it doesn't feel so much like everything's gone. It's just hazy. Calderon looks at me in a way I've never seen before, as if he understands. But how could he? Lost somewhere in the back of my mind, waiting to be found, perhaps.
I have something that might help.
He shuffles in the front pocket of his jacket, pulling out a small, spherical object. Holding it towards me, he studies me expectantly. What is it?
Don't you know?
Shaking my head, I reach for the object, feeling the cool touch of metal on my fingertips.
You had it on you when June brought you in here. Thought you might recognize it. That it might help you remember.
I examine the object in my hand. It's small enough to hold in one palm. But there's something else. Something special.
I think there's something inside, but it beats me how to open the thing. I and Bash took a look at it, but nothing. All we know is that the metal, it's catalphenite, hard enough to get a hold of even before the plane exploded. Now it's about as rare as a substance can get, and it's expensive. Whoever you are, not just anyone would own a trinket like this. That thing is worth enough to pay for this ship 10 times over.
I'm only partly listening to Calderon now, mesmerized instead by the small box in my hand. There's a kind of power about it, some low, thrumming energy running over my skin, desperate for release. Everything about it feels familiar, feels as if guided by some distant memory. I close my palm over the sphere, squeezing once before releasing it slowly. The first few notes of a tune tinkle from the sphere as it opens, and my eyes snap to Calderon's, his face just as dumbfounded as my own.
It's
a music box. The inside of the sphere is an intricate maze of metal, moving cogs, neon lights, and sizzling energy. And my eyes are mesmerized by the movement as it plays its slow, sad lullaby. The tinkling notes echo through the room, each as hauntingly familiar as the last. It's almost cruel how it caresses the edges of my memories, taunting me to remember faces and names that are no longer there. My heart tugs at the hopelessness of it all, and another sharp pain shoots through my head. With my teeth clenched tight against the pain, it's only now, when I feel the wetness on my cheeks, that I realize I'm crying. But why am I crying? The music box hasn't triggered any memories in me, only feelings. A sadness and longing so strong, it makes my heart ache. The melody ends, and for a long time after, neither of us says a word. Until Calderon breaks the silence, his voice barely more than a whisper.
Anything?
I blink a couple of times, my eyes focusing on the man in front of me. He holds my gaze, and it's the first time I've seen any warmth in those sapphire eyes, though I doubt anything could warm the cold creeping through me now, poisoning my veins and settling in my heart. I swallow thickly, and it pains me to shake my head. Do you think... I hesitate, the words stuck in my throat. I don't want them to be true. They can't be true. Do you think I'll ever remember? I know Calderon can hear the bitterness in my voice. Perhaps that's why he takes a step forward, his hands twitching at his sides.
I wish I had answers for you. I truly do. But the mind is a complicated thing. It suppresses memories it doesn't want to remember, holds tight to the ones it does. Even then, they grow hazy with time.
His eyes follow the trail of my fingers, closing the music box with a soft click. It pulses in my hand, its sad, sweet melody still echoing through me.
There's still time, but are you sure you want to remember?
My eyes flick to his, the confusion hitting me like a brick wall. What?
Have you thought that maybe whatever your mind is holding back from you is for your own good?
I don't understand.
Think about it. What if what happened in your past was so bad, you simply don't want to remember?
There must be something worth remembering. There has to be.
I hope so. I'd better get going. Riona would kill us both if she thought you were doing anything other than resting.
My mouth drops at the insinuation, and he chuckles.
Get some sleep.
The sooner you can get rid of me, the better, right?
I may have been a little hasty with the matter. Just get some rest. That's an order.
Good night, Captain.
Good night, stowaway.
With a heavy sigh, I lay down on my bed, holding the music box up above me. The metal glints in the fluorescent light, and I vaguely recall hearing of Kitalphanite before. It's a metal that was found on Kitalpha before it was destroyed, mined from deep below the watery surface in the ocean caves. That explains its pearlescent shine. Why do you feel so familiar? I speak out loud, squinting as something catches my eye within the intricate detailing. There's an engraving on it. NLP. What does it mean? Feeling the exhaustion weighing on me, I decide the question can wait. Opening the music box once more, I set it beside me on the bed, watching the dance of the lights and gears as the tinkling melody lulls me to sleep. My eyes grow heavy, so heavy, and I'm pulled under by the weight of my exhaustion. Wavering on the brink of dreams and reality, I hear it. A sweet, strong voice. Familiar. So familiar.
Be strong, Nico. Be safe. You're a fighter, a survivor. The day where I have to leave you will come. Sooner than we both know. Promise me. Don't give up.
Who are you? Why can't I remember you? Why does it feel like I miss you when I can't even...
I'm sorry. I miss you too.